Okay, guys, so English 250, Introduction to Literary Studies. Last time we talked about Freud, who I think it looks like it is going to be the final guy in the our art and audience packet. Um, so we'll have one more philosopher to kind of wrap up the class. I'm gonna end class by teaching a philosopher who's of personal importance to me. Um, kind of a guy. I'm gonna give you a piece of paper that changed my life, and you can do what you want with it. Um, but Sigmund Freud is going to end the sort of art and audience unit. Um, Now, one of the things I tried to do here was to try to use Hamlet, and so I'd like to kind of jump back to Hamlet as an illustration of the kind of thing Freud is talking about, because I try to like always jump back into Hamlet. Um, so what I want to look at today is the copy of Hamlet. We're on page 23, and I want to go over in some detail, in an upsetting amount of detail. I want to go over the scene where Hamlet confronts his mother after um, after the play within a play. Remember he upsets his stepfather by having a play that reminds his stepfather of the murder of his actual father. Um, and then after that, the queen wants to talk to him. And this is the scene where he stabs Polonius. He kills Polonius about 5 lines into this. So I just want to look at that scene. I think it's really fascinating, and we'll take a look at it. I love me some Hamlet. So here we go. I'm on page 23 of your copy. I think it's Act 3, Scene 3? No, Act 3, Scene 4, I think. Yeah, Act 3, Scene 4, that sounds right. So, um, remember, so Hamlet has upset Claudius by having a play that showed a murder that nobody was supposed to know about. But Claudius, and Claudius is like, oh shit, people know about my murder, and he runs away. And then the queen wants to talk to him, Queen's mother. Um, so as soon as Hamlet walks in the door, they start fighting. And Polonius is hiding behind a sheet. So because Polonius loves spying on people, and so he spies. So Polonius hides behind. No, I'm sorry, as I say a sheet, he's hiding behind like the curtains, these sort of thick drapery curtain things, and he's sort of hidden in there. So as soon as Hamlet walks in the door, they start fighting, and they start fighting over something interesting. Um, Now Shakespeare can be complicated. The language can be rich and difficult to follow, but this language I think is crystal clear. Um, how now, mother? What's the matter? Because his mother said she wanted to talk to him, so he wants to know what's the matter. Now, he should know what's the matter. He really upset Claudius, but he's pretending he doesn't know. So he says, how now, mother? What's the matter? Hamlet, thou hast thy father much offended. Mother, you have my father much offended. Come, come, you answer with an idle tongue. Go, go, you question with a wicked tongue. Um, Notice, by the way, the very first thing that they fight over is Gertrude says, you have your father much offended. And he says, you have my father much offended. So you see, it sounds like he's mocking her because he's sending her own sentence back to her. But there's a crucial difference in their sentences, which is when Gertrude says father, she means stepfather. She means Claudius. You've upset Claudius. And Hamlet says, you have my father much offended. And he means Hamlet Senior, the ghost. And she means you've upset your father, Claudius, with this crazy play that made him go nuts. And then Hamlet says, mother, you have offended my father by marrying Claudius. You've upset my ghost dad. And so the first thing is they're fighting over the dad, and really the definition over the word dad, right? Because she thinks father should mean Claudius, and Hamlet thinks father should mean his biological father, Hamlet Sr., the ghost. So that starts it off. Why, how now, Hamlet? Like, she's surprised he's talking to her like this. He's not being very respectful to his mother. What's the matter now? Have you forgot me? Like, I'm your mom. Don't talk to me like this. No, by the rood, not so. You are the queen, your husband's brother's wife, and would it were not so, you are my mother. He's being extremely rude to call her your husband's brother's wife. I mean, it's technically true, but it's just sort of a nasty thing to remind her about. She says, nay, then I'll set you those that can speak. She's going to get somebody else to talk to him. But he doesn't let her go. He grabs her. Come, come, and sit you down. Usually in performance, he throws her down on a chair. He says, come, come, and sit you down. You shall not budge. You go not till I set you up a glass wherein you may see the inmost part of you. Glass there means mirror. He says, I want to show you a mirror so you can see yourself for what you really are. And of course, we know that Hamlet thinks his mom is kind of a whore for jumping into bed with Claudius so quickly. This really scares the queen. She's upset about this. She says, what wilt thou do? Wilt thou not murder me? Help, help. And then Polonius yells. And Hamlet says, "How now? A rat dead for a ducat dead." And he stabs the curtain, but he doesn't know who's in there. He thinks, and Polonius says, "I am slain." And Hamlet said, "Oh me, what hast thou done?" "Nay, I know not. Is it the king?" So like he's like, maybe I just killed the king. Maybe I did it. He was supposed to kill the king, and he's like, he stabbed. He freaks out his mom. She cries for help. Polonius says something behind the curtain because he's like, oh shit, I better help her. She's in trouble. And Hamlet just stabs whoever is behind the curtain. He doesn't know who it is. And the first thing he says is, "Ooh, is it the king?" So Hamlet's really pretty nuts right here. He's just murdered a guy. What makes the okay, and then Hamlet gets real serious real fast. This escalates very quickly. "Oh, what a rash and bloody deed is this! A bloody deed, almost as bad, good mother, as kill a king and marry with his brother." As kill a king? "Ay, lady, it was my word." And then he pulls Polonius's body out and says, "Thou wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell." Now, what's interesting is Hamlet just accused his mother of being in on the plot to kill his dad. Right? Well, we, the audience, know Claudius killed King Hamlet by poisoning him in the ear. He poured poison in his ear while King Hamlet slept. So we know Claudius is the murderer. We have no idea if Gertrude was in on it or if she knew about it or anything. But Hamlet here says that she says, "Oh, it's really bad you killed Polonius," and he says, "Yeah, it's almost as bad as killing a king and marrying with his brother." So it's clear that Hamlet thinks Gertrude is a little bit guilty here. Now, I hope you will remember the ghost told Hamlet, "Kill Claudius," and the ghost said, "Leave your mom alone." He's not doing that. He's not killing Claudius, and he's not leaving his mom alone. He's really bothering her. And this is really one of the craziest scenes in the whole play. He's so nuts. Um, and then and he brings this up, and he doesn't bring it up again. We don't get any information from the queen. He accuses her of killing a king and marrying with his brother, but he doesn't. He never asks her that again. It's almost like he doesn't want to know if she was in on it. He sort of throws the accusation out and then doesn't return. This is very Freud, right? This idea that he wants to know, but he doesn't want to know at the same time. Um, You'll remember the audience. Freud said the audience of Oedipus was interested in this. They like the story because they want that, but they also don't want that, and so they can play it out in fantasy. Um, so Hamlet says goodbye to Polonius. "Thou wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell. I took thee for thy better." I mean, I thought you were the king. "Take thy fortune. Thou findest to be too busy is some danger." And then he says, "Leave wringing of your hands," meaning stop being upset. He says to her, "Peace, sit you down, and let me wring your heart, for I shall show if it be made of penetrable stuff, if damned custom have not brazed it so, that it be proof and bulwark against sense." So he says, I need to talk to you, mom, if you can even hear me anymore, because you're such a bad person. Maybe she's closed herself off. She has like a hard heart, and she won't hear him. And she says, "What have I done, that thou darest wag thy tongue and noise so rude against me? What is the terrible thing that I did?" And Hamlet starts freaking out. And you can really see if you look ahead, he has a little bit of words here, and then he has a giant speech about it here. Um, but he says, "Such an act as blurs the grace and blush of modesty, calls virtue hypocrite, takes off the rose from the fair forehead of an innocent love, and sets a blister there, makes marriage vows as false as dicers' oaths." So that she's not virtuous, meaning she's not pure, because she's fucking somebody else that's not his dad. Takes the rose from the fair forehead of an innocent love and sets a blister there. She's like a diseased flower. Makes marriage vows as false as dicers' oaths. Gamblers promise they're going to pay you back when they don't do it. That's what her marriage vows are like. She promised to be true to his dad, and she married the brother. Such a deed as from the body of contraction plucks the very soul, and sweet religion makes a rhapsody of words. Heaven's face does glow over this solidity and compound mass with heated visages against the doom, his thoughts sick at the act. He's going, and then he's going to give an even bigger speech detailing all the things she's done wrong. But fundamentally, what is he so upset about? He's upset. He feels like she's cheating on his dad because she got married to somebody else. And this really is one of the most bonkers parts of all of Hamlet, which is that Hamlet, he knows for sure his uncle killed his dad, and he's way more interested in his mom's sex life. See you in the next video.